that is my hair loss story. Honestly, I found the entire experience very like eye-opening. Because there were so many things that you don't think you would react a certain way, but you did, and you didn't expect society to react in a certain way, but they did, and there's so many things you pick up on as a result of the experience. Like for example, like I hated the way like my hair looked when I was in like government school. The fact that I had to keep it really short, I always hated it. I always wanted to grow it long, but I couldn't. Um, and then when I was able to grow it long, once I switched to international school, it really sort of became part and parcel of my like identity in a way. Like it became like this extension of me, and I loved the look for one, but also there was so much I could do with it. I could try different styles, blah blah blah, and like that it became really like a part of me in a way, um, which is interesting because a lot of people have, like, especially when I talk about like hair loss, have said it's just hair, but the reality is it isn't just hair. It is actually for. I think you won't really realize how big of a role your hair plays in your identity unless you actually suffer from hair loss or you lost your hair, or for example you had to like shave it off completely for some reason. You won't really realize how much of an impact what you consider to be you in a way is defined by your hair, because this like your hair like frames your entire face, so without it, I don't know, I just sometimes look in the mirror and like sometimes it's like it doesn't feel very me. I'm like it's like I'm not looking at myself. So yeah, that was one big thing, like how big of a role my hair was in my identity, um, which now makes me understand why like Buddhist priests like shave their heads, because they're supposed to be sort of distancing themselves from materialism and the present world. And hair definitely is a sort of uh, it's like a part and parcel of identity that I guess if you're on the path to enlightenment you don't really need. It's going to be a distraction, but I can see how that became a thing. And another thing I found really interesting about the whole thing is like the level of denial, because like it's weird because normally I'm not a very like denial-ish kind of person. Like I'm a very sort of it is what it is with like most things, but this thing in particular, wow! Like the denial was like epic, like for years and years, until it was just so obvious that I just couldn't deny it anymore. Like it was just staring at me in the mirror. But until then, there was just so much of like denial, which, like now thinking back, is quite interesting because it's not something I normally do with anything else. But with this, there was like majorly the denial, and I would say I was also pretty like surprised by the level of like anxiety and like panic and freak out on my part about losing hair, and also just like how overall like just devastated I was with like the realization of the fact that my hair was going. And I don't know, I think like I don't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing, but considering the hair loss, I guess it's more of a bad thing. But like I think I like my hair became so much a part of my identity that when I started to lose it, it almost felt like sort of like amputation of like my personality in a way. Like it felt like I was like losing this like huge chunk of myself. Um, that was like very heavily tied to like I know so many things, just like physical appearance, sexual attraction, sexuality, gender, la da da. I mean, like those things are completely separate story altogether, but it definitely was all tied up together. So yeah, and the level of anger, like the level of like just jealousy and anger and hatred towards anybody who had good hair or towards anyone who had any hair at all. Like if ever people start grumbling around me about like, oh, I'm having such a bad hair today, my hair day today, my hair is like so frizzy, and I'm just like, at least you have hair. And the worst is when like I see really old people, like sometimes I just go to the gym and I just bumped into this like really old uncle. Like he was like 90 years old. Like, does he look 90 years old? And he had this head full of like silver hair. And I'm just like, I think that's the other thing because like for me it started so early. It started when I was 17. So I think I would have it my reaction wouldn't have been as strong if it had happened when I was like, I don't know, 40 or 50 or 60 or something. But when it happens when you're in your teens, that I feel like it would hit anybody far more than if it happened when they were like really, really old. So to like see someone who's really, really old and they don't seem to have gone through this at all, my blood just would just I would be like cracking their skulls in my imagination. So yeah. And another thing I think I found really interesting is like the level of just like annoyance that I had with like that I still have actually to like the social how society reacted to not just my own hair loss but like just the topic of male pattern hair loss in general. There were a lot of like double standards and like just oddities, just strange logic, um, which I wouldn't have ever come across if I hadn't actually started experiencing this. So, like for example, um, when I was in government school, um, like I said, my hair had to be like really really short, and I didn't like it. Um, I didn't really know why at that point because I'd never been able to grow my hair out. But I think it was not just about hair also. Like it was all like, there were a lot of strict rules. It was all about do as you're told. And I went to an all boys school, so like there was a huge emphasis on masculinity and like hero worshipping the masculine. And this is like it's an idea that I never really lived up to. And so in my head, I always like associated like short hair with masculinity because that was what was sort of indoctrinated into me from the time I was a child. Um, and like they like I agree to a certain degree with the argument of how because all our schools here had uniforms and like how when you are all dressed the same you look the same that you don't discriminate between rich and poor, blah 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 blah. But also in a way, you kind of erase identity. And so for as long as I was at government school, I never really felt unique or had like an identity of my own because I was never able to explore it while I was there. I had to be like one of the everybody else, like another clone. Um, and I didn't like that. And I also think that in a way, my coming to terms with my sexuality is actually heavily linked to my hair journey as well in a way, because so like I said, I had short hair forever, and then when I was around 13, 14, I started taking part in drama, and everything just started to fall into place. But the biggest like nail on the head in terms of identity was to do so basically because it's an all boys school, all the female roles are played by boys, and the first role I ever played was female, and I stuck to it since because it just felt so good and felt so much more me. And I like the biggest thing that like really connected to me in terms of identity is when we used to get wigs, when we used to put on the wig. Like once the wig is on, it just felt so much more, I don't know, everything just like felt more like it just fell into place. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like the identity was just so much more there than it was when I take it off. And it honestly was just like the wig. Like without the wig, I just felt like a boy in women's clothes. And then the minute I put the wig on, it just like, I don't know, just something clicks. And even without the clothes, like even if I wasn't wearing like feminine or female clothes or whatever you want to call it, um, the wig, the hair, it just always just like clicked. Um, but then at the same time, I also realized that well, at least at the start, drama was seen as very like, you who does that kind of thing. Um, it like my school hero worshipped like the masculine, and so sports was everything. Drama was like you, and only towards the end I think it got a little bit like more acceptable-ish because like people from sports started doing drama. But besides that, there was quite a bit of like I was very aware that this wasn't like the socially acceptable thing to be into or passionate about in a way. And like the other thing I noticed about school and like teachers and stuff is that so number one, long hair was against the rules, but I used to push the limit sometimes and like try like I grow it out to see how much I can grow it out before getting into trouble. And whenever I used to get into trouble, the insults used to always be like, what is this growing your hair like a girl? And 99% of the people who said that were women. So it was almost insinuating. I was like, you're a woman. Aren't you saying that like being feminine or being female, there's something wrong with being feminine or being female? You're basically insulting yourself. And then there were like, teachers who do this whole like, මීමකු මේ රස්තිය අදුකාරයෙක් වගේ ඇයි තමසෙමිකන් වැද්දෙක් වගේ කොණ්ඩේ වවාගෙන. And in my head, every time I hear this Vedda thing, I'm just like, what's wrong with being a Vedda now? Because the Veddas, the last time I checked, are the natives of this country, and you're trying to tell me that there's something wrong with being a native of this country. And then they follow that up with like a දැන් රස්සාවක් හොයන්න යනකොට ඔයගොල්ලෝ හොඳට කොණ්ඩේ කපාගෙන charm එකට යන්න ඕනේ. And then like I know when they say like මහත්තයෙක් වගේ ඉන්න ඕනේ, මහත්තයෙක් වගේ හැසිරෙන්න ඕනේ, what they're basically insinuating is look like a white guy. I mean, look at Sri Lankan history. Tell me any ancient painting or carving or anything prior to colonization in this country where men having short hair was the norm. Because the last time I checked, every single guy has this like long head full of hair and they tie it up in like a huge knot. And then now all of a sudden being a Mahatya is the norm. And the norm includes having short hair, which is basically straight out of the British school system. But like, yeah. And then when I switched to international school, like that's when like I said, like my identity really like sort of fit in with my hair. But again, like there were like double standards. There was like, I could grow it out, but there was still a limit, and the limit was much less than they would allow like a girl. And like I could never understand that, because in school also they would always argue like, hair is a distraction, you would be obsessed with it and it's like vanity basically. Pretty much the same theory that, people use, like, is used in religion to justify like priests shaving their heads. But there's always be like, but in girls' schools you allow girls to grow their hair, so if hair is a distraction, does that mean that girls don't get distracted? Because I'm certain they do. And like even at international school, there was this one incident where I had this teacher who used to hate my guts, and my hair had gotten so long it was just like falling all over my face like this, and so the front like fringe type thingy, I clipped it back like that with the hair clip, and I walked into class and he did like this whole like, that is against the school rules, you're not allowed to do that here, blah, 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 blah. And there was this girl who used to literally wear clips on her head. Like her hair was so pasted to her head by like 10 million clips every day. I wouldn't be surprised if like the hair came out from the roots. And I just like looked across at her, like her head is covered in roots, her head is covered in clips. And like I who's wearing this like one clip, he was like, no, we don't do that here, that's against the school rules, take it off. And I had to like take it off in front of everybody. So yeah, even at international school the rules are more relaxed, but there was still a lot of double standards. And there was this one time where I decided to go get my hair relaxed, and I got this it looked like the hair from Rihanna's hair from the Disturbia music video, because I was obsessed with that song when I was young. So I got this Rihanna-fied hair, and everyone flipped, and my mom did this whole I asked you to get a proper men's haircut, and she glared at my hair, and she went on about it for the next 100 million years. And I'm just if it's just hair, why is the tiniest of changes so jingly, and why does everyone get so wound up about it if it is just hair, which clearly it isn't, but everyone just keeps acting like it's just hair. I remember even after coming out and stuff, my mom had this big jingle. Initially when I came out she flipped, and then after over time she got more used to it and she got okay with it. But when I initially told her she flipped, the biggest thing that she found that she kind of reacted to was whenever I looked in the mirror and fixed my hair, it is nah, 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 there's a mirror near the front door, and before I leave the house I always check myself in that mirror, so before I go to school or whatever. And the minute she catches me staring at the mirror, say, come, we go, come, so it's what is it with hair that gets that's so sensitive? I couldn't understand it, but apparently to a lot of people, hair is very symbolic of all sorts of 100 million other things, and I think I have internalized that as well. Yeah, and I think the other big thing is that my hair was one of the only things that people actually I got compliments about. I never really got compliments about anything else, but my hair, there were so many people who I've gotten compliments about when I had the hair, that is. So, and then yeah, and I think that gets to you over time, and then when you lose it, it's that one thing that everyone liked about you, but now it's gone. And then what's left kind of feeling? It's kind of like having a self-esteem boost and then a self-esteem crash, which is not ideal. Ideally, you would just not have had a boost or a crash, you would just had a plateau. But no, we have to boost it and crash it down. And how, one thing I found interesting was during that whole sort of denial and freak out phase where in my head I was freaking out, I knew what was happening, and I assumed that everybody else was also guessing or figuring out or seeing or noticing, but in reality nobody really gave a shit, and no one really was noticing anything. It's interesting how you assume things about society and that people are noticing things, but in reality nobody has noticed anything, and it's all just in your head. And then once the hair started to get visible, there were so many little things that just the fact that my mother does this all the time, and there's so many people who've done it the first time they see me after a long time, and the hair loss is now visible. Their eye, how girls with big boobs always talk about how people's eyes are always down here and not in their not looking in their face. So people do that to me, except with the hair, so their eyes are always up. It's oh yeah, oh yeah, that's lovely. It's oh yeah, it's so the hair, eyes are always just here, and I'm just yeah. Oh my god, and the worst is when people do the whole just shave it off, bro. You look like Vin Diesel or Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Chicks dig that these days, bro. First of all, I have no interest in knowing or caring about what chicks are digging these days. They can dig their own graves for all I care. Second of all, Dwayne the Rock Johnson and Vin Diesel can look whatever the hell they want to, but do you think I am interested in looking like Dwayne the Rock Johnson of all people? Exactly. And then I would say the biggest thing is like the double standards between like the two sexes. Like there's so much like there's like I've come across like women who will be like, "Oh my God, why are you making such a big deal about this? It's just hair. It's just hair. It's just hair. It's just hair." And like just like shave it off, you know, be a man kind of thingy. But the minute they have like teeny tiny excess of hair fall, they're like, "Oh my God, all my hair is gone. My hair fall is getting so bad. Oh my God, the world is ending." But for me, it's just hair. So guys, by the way, just to let y'all know about a quick update. I don't know if I mentioned this on this video, but basically I was planning on trying out CBD oil next because I have like major anxiety issues, and I've been on medication for a couple of years while I was at uni, and I didn't like it, and it had a string of horrendous side effects, so I got off my medication and I want to try something more natural. But I found out today that our lovely, patriotic Mother Lanka Sri Lankan government has decided to seize all imports of CBD oil, and claims that the Ayurvedic department had no authority to approve the sale of CBD oil in this country, because CBD oil is a product that is based on cannabinoids, and that because and all cannabinoids are considered dangerous drugs in Sri Lanka, and therefore CBD oil is hereby officially banned, which means no CBD oil for me, which is a different topic altogether. But I did think that CBD oil would probably help with the hair situation as well, because I do feel like a lot of my hair issues also stem from like very high levels of stress and anxiety on a like constant basis. So I was interested to find out how CBD oil might affect hair growth as like a side effect or whatever. But I guess I'm not gonna find out. So yeah, so now CBD oil is considered a dangerous drug in this country, a very very dangerous drug, because it's based on because it's a hemp product basically, so it's based on marijuana, and marijuana has been used in Sri Lanka as a recreational drug and as part of Ayurvedic medicine for painkillers for centuries, until the British came and criminalized it so they can sell tobacco cigarettes to us. But this is a country where we are still stuck in a constant state of colonial hangoverism now, where like, you know, everything colonial is the greatest thing ever, and everything that once used to be part of Sri Lankan culture is like ew, disgusting. So yeah, and we're still living in a delusion that we've actually got independence in 1948, when in reality we're still 100 bazillion percent British colony in a lot of ways. But yeah, just want to rant about that. So next option is that in terms of my anxiety, is a different story altogether. But in terms of my anxiety, I'm going to be switching to alcohol, because that's the only thing that's really worked besides pills. And I know for a fact that the side effects of having alcohol in my system is not as bad as the pills. The pills were horrendous. So yeah, I guess I'll see you in rehab. Is moving on. So another thing that I noticed was that there's a lot of like mehness when it comes to like treatments and stuff that are available, and I feel like it's like the sort of like the way people look at diseases is very dependent on the gender that it affects also. Like stuff that predominantly affects women, people go like goo goo gaga over, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but stuff that predominantly affects just men, like men's health issues, is very like overlooked and treated in a very sort of like dismissive type of way. It's very like, yeah, whatever. So I think another like indicative of that is the fact that to this day there hasn't, well now there has in the last maybe like 2 to 3 years, but until then, until you know advertising and Instagramming and everyone wanted to look like a model became a thing, um, there wasn't much of an effort put into trying to find new treatments or different ways of treating male pattern hair loss. The drugs that were used, which is minoxidil and I forgot the name of the pill, but the pill that makes your dick go soft. Those were basically the only two options that were available for decades. I don't know why people didn't do more research into it. I don't know why there wasn't more of a, like a drive to try and find ways of treating hair loss among the medical community, but it was just overlooked and like no one really gave a shit until like now, where everyone is being seen because of like the internet and social media, and I feel like now that's one of the primary reasons driving men want to do something about their hair loss, because before that it was like a be a man, shave your hair, chicks dig that shit bro kind of thing. So yeah, that is like the like level of empathy that people have towards someone losing their hair. Like if a woman loses their hair because of some autoimmune disease or actual like hair loss or like cancer or some chemotherapy or something like that, everyone's just like heartbroken and like are you okay, oh my god, how horrendous, such a horrible thing to happen, blah 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 blah. But if a guy loses their hair, people are just like whatever. So on top of all of this nonsense, I also happen to have like very 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 severe anxiety problems that has been around since like puberty basically. And then on top of that, once I went to uni, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and I was put on medication for it. And the meds, I didn't Google the meds or anything at the start. Initially they were okay, but then over time I started to realize a lot of side effects. My stomach was getting screwed up. I was putting on weight, and so at this point in time I was using just minoxidil, and it was kind of working. It had slowed down the process, but then once I started the pills, I didn't connect the two together at that point. But like the hair loss got worse. And then like years later I realized that the ingredients in the pills that I was taking, one of the side effects is that it can cause hair loss. So it was this messed up vicious cycle of like you have like major anxiety and like mood disorder issues, and so you take medication for it, and then the medication causes your hair to fall off, and then your hair fall makes your anxiety worse. Then you take meds to solve the anxiety, and the meds make your hair fall out, and the hair fall out makes your anxiety worse, and it just keeps going round and round and round, this like horrendous vicious cycle. Death. And I've had like a couple of friends who have been a bit like weird about like hair loss. Like the first time they've noticed, they've had a bit of like, I would consider negative reactions. Like they've done like this like ew, like what did you go and do to yourself kind of attitude, as if like I went and like lost my hair myself for some reason. And oh my god, there was this one time where like see, this is why like I like steer completely clear of like wigs or hair pieces or anything of the sort, because I have this constant fear that someone's going to like snatch my wig basically. Because even when I used to do like the cap, I've had people snatch my cap. So I'm like even if I'm wearing something on my head, I'm like in my head I'm just like someone's just gonna come and like take it off, and then the secret's gonna be out kind of feeling. And so like there was this time where this is around the time that like it had started to become like a bit visible. But I would do everything. I was like desperately trying everything possible to like camouflage it. So I would like, before I go out anywhere, I would like like place every strand of hair in like perfect place, so that like every like spot is like covered. And then I would sometimes even like just hairspray the whole thing so that it doesn't move, and like throughout the entire night I don't touch my hair at all. And so once we went for this friend's birthday, and I show up at the house, and there were like a whole bunch of other people that we knew, and the first thing he did was he just like ran his hair like hand through my hair and did like a you're losing your hair, aren't you, kind of thing. I'm just like, Mm-hmm. Somebody please kill me now. So yeah, and like ever since then, I've just been mortified of the idea of anyone like messing with my hair or like messing with my cap or anything of the sort. So I mean, I've shaved my head like bazillion times before this, and even though I hate the look of it aesthetically, it's the most comforting thing mentally because there's nothing to move or snatch or reveal or anything. Like it's there. Like there's nothing else to it. So yeah. I have also had experiences like with Tinder and Grindr and stuff like that where people have like for example on Grindr, if like someone wants to send like a Facebook or something, and then you send a picture and then they're like, "Oh, are you Paul?" And I'm like, "Yeah," and then like the scenes on you, they never reply, or they don't even say anything. Like the minute they see your picture, they just block you. Then the profile just like disappears. So yeah, like stuff like that has happened, and it definitely does have an impact on the way you see yourself, and you feel about yourself, and it does definitely affect like quality of life overall, I would say. I mean, having said that, it's not all negative. I have had people who've been very supportive and like positive about the whole thing. But in general, like overall, my like general experiences overall have been more on the negative side when it comes to this than it has been on the positive side. So yeah, that's basically the very, 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 very long story. I don't know how long this video is going to be actually, but anyways, um, yeah, about hair loss. And up next in the future, of course, I was like I said, I was going planning on trying CBD oil to see how it affects hair loss. It wasn't for hair loss. I was trying it for anxiety issues, but we're probably not going to be doing that because thank you government. But uh, definitely I want to try out PRP at some point once I have the money because I need to save. And when I do, I will let you know, or I will show you how it went. I'm hopeful so far, but I also don't want this to last for like waiting to last for so long because I don't know how effective it's going to be the longer you wait. I mean, if I, yeah, the sooner you do it, the better, I think. I could be wrong, I don't know. But yeah, and I will let you know how that goes. Okay, malam. Anyway, if you want to see more from me, go follow me on Instagram because I'm definitely way more active there than I am on YouTube. My handle is photocopy machine. I'll put it on the screen here. Yeah. Okay. Bye.